A major international bank could be fined an incredible 483 trillion Australian dollars. So about £5. Hello and welcome to today's Daily Blitz. In today's video, we'll be going over an interesting news item that's come out of Australia. Now, Nikolai, you're the expert here on the Australian banking system and all the strange things that have gone on there in the past few years. But this pertains to an absolutely huge fine that could be levied upon the bank. This is Westpac, one of Australia's big four banks. What is it that happened here?
Basically, the bank has failed to report large and suspicious transactions to the Australian government, and there's about 23 million of those transactions that they've failed to pass on the information for to the government.
Right, and so how is that $483 trillion fine come out of?
That's the maximum theoretical fine that could be applied to Westpac based on how much per transaction. But it's actually unlikely to ever come to that amount, obviously. The shares were only down 3%. So the real story here isn't about the size of the fine.
So what is the story about?
I think it's all about privacy, or privacy, as you would say.
Yeah.
The story here is about the way the government has circumvented privacy protections, civil rights, that sort of thing. What they've done is, instead of having to investigate potential criminals themselves with all of the things that involves, they've asked the banks to do it for them. They've asked the banks to provide analysis and the raw data of any transaction that might be suspicious, that could be suspicious, and hand that over to the government for analysis. But this means that all of our personal financial information is being handed over to the government all the time on a regular basis without any protections involved.
So I guess assume the thinking here is if you've nothing to hide, then you have nothing to be worried about, sort of attitude?
That's what they're going to claim, but the story hasn't really sort of devolved to that point yet. What they're saying is that bankers are covering up for paedophiles and terrorists by not reporting these financial transactions. But it's 23 million transactions that Westpac alone, one bank in Australia, failed to report. That tells you that it's effectively all of the large transactions and regular transactions that Australians do every day. And that really means that our financial information is basically being handed to the government on a silver platter with no protection for our privacy.
And if a bank doesn't do that, then it will face, it could face, in theory, total bankruptcy, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. So going forward from this, what do you think is going to happen with Westpac?
Well, not much with Westpac. It's a shame that in Australia the banks are unlikely to be personally held liable. But here in the UK, much the same legislation is active, and that suggests that basically the government already has the information that it needs to clamp down on our financial lives with incredibly large impact.
And could swing $1 trillion or £1 trillion in this case fine on banks. Which
the threat, right. The threat of one.
Well, thank you very much for watching today's Daily Blitz. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching.